So we're here with Tom Walsh. Tom, welcome to ThrowsTalk, and thanks for giving up your time to talk with me.
Thank you.
So we're here in London after the London Grand Prix, and this is probably your last competition prior to Rio, yeah?
I've got one more in Athens, Georgia on the 8th of August.
Right.
So that'll be my last hit out before the big day.
Okay. Good. And everything going well with your preparation?
Yeah, it's coming along. I had a reasonable throw today. I didn't feel like I really hit or lined up any of them.
Right.
The 2054 was nice.
Yeah.
And that was about all it was.
Yeah.
Good positions, but really no fire in the belly when I really threw it. And I had some really good horsepower with some of the other throws, but just didn't quite line them up. But I guess that's the type of training I'm in at the moment. Is I've got all this extra power that I've kind of accrued after Stockholm, which I had to reload for phasing.
Okay.
So now I'm just starting to get used to being a bit fresher and trying to line things up with that.
Good. So progress all looking good for Rio, and one of the things that's marked out your career so far, even though it's relatively short, has been you've always been turning up for the major competitions ready to go.
Yeah, and that's something I pride myself on. I had Jaco won World Juniors in 2010 and I was there.
Yeah.
Many people wouldn't know that, but I was there, and I was before it I was only about 10-15 centimetres behind Jaco in some of the warm-up comps. So I was a 20-metre guy at about that time, so I knew I was within a shot, and I went from throwing 20 metres at the back of the warm-up field to throwing 18 metres in the competition. And I was like, what the hell's with that? That's not the type of shape I'm in. There must be something else. So that, and also the fact that Jaco won, everyone in the New Zealand team was like, this guy's good and all this kind of stuff. So the motivation of trying to get back to being level with him and hopefully in the future beat him, but also figure out what I was doing wrong. And that's when I sat down with my sports psychologist, John Quinn, who I've worked with ever since, and he's actually coming out to Athens, Georgia in a few weeks before the Olympics as well. So, and it was really a mental thing that there wasn't anything physical. I was in the best shape of my life at that point in time, and it was just physical. I just tightened up, and when I throw best, I flow, I move well, I move effortlessly, and it's easy, like everyone. So I knew that, as I said, it wasn't physical, it was mental, and I needed to fix that. So we went through kind of a process of figuring out, when I threw well, what was I doing? And of course, at that point in time, I didn't know. Now I know a lot more. And it's kind of evolved over the last 6 years now. It is. And obviously, things have changed, the tables have turned now. I'm beating Jaco and other bits and pieces like that. But the huge part of why I turn up well is obviously, one, we understand, what I'm like when I throw well in terms of physically and what time of gym work and stuff like that I need and throwing. And two, mentally. Because when I'm confident and I know that all the training I've done is what I need, I'm on.
But it's interesting working with a sports psychologist, and now you've been working with him for 6 years or whatever. A lot of people sort of misunderstand the work with the sports psychologist. A lot of it is giving you tools of how to handle situations, right?
It is.
And the more you work with it, the better it becomes, the easier it becomes, and more normal.
A lot of sports psychologists talk at different levels. And the good thing about John is he talks at more my level, which is a Kiwi bloke, doesn't understand big words too much, and not an academic guy, which I'm not, and I'm open about that. So we've got a really good relationship with that. And some people that doesn't work with, and some people it does, and you've just got to find what works for you. So we've got 3 or 4 plans in place in terms of if this doesn't work to focus you or calm you down or whatever it is, then you can use this and you can use this and you can use this. So it's all about because nothing's ever perfect. You can try for it to be, but it never is. So you've got to have backup plans in place.
Also, the other thing, you're from New Zealand. It's a long way away from pretty much anything, right? Other than Australia, so it brings with it a whole new set of issues and concerns and how to deal with things. I mean, you know, we didn't know a lot about you. We knew a little bit, the rest of the world, knew a lot about Jaco.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion about him, and you kind of snuck in under the radar. And I remember seeing you as a junior and being very impressed with what you were doing. And you kind of went there unnoticed, and then, you know, developed into a very, very good senior very quickly as well. How was it growing up alongside Jaco and all the attention that he was getting?
Yeah, look, first of all, I never thought I was going to be a shot putter.
Yeah.
You know, I was a cricket player and rugby player, and pretty good at those two.
Yeah.
And I thought I was always going to go those ways.
Yeah.
But I guess once I left school, I kept doing shot put. I guess Jaco was there in front of me, and I really hated that. I really hated that, you know. So we have two islands in New Zealand, and I'm from the South Island, and Jaco's from the North Island. So there's a rivalry there, and I never wanted this young guy from Auckland beating me and taking my glory. And then I figured out that why was I worrying about what he was doing and not what I was doing? And as soon as I figured that out and stopped being maybe a little bitter about some of the success he had, I was off.
Right.
And that was the biggest thing for me, was realising that I could only control myself and not control anyone else or what anyone else does. And as long as I am fine with that, which over the last kind of 4 or 5 years I have been, things have just kind of stepped up. And having Jaco there also motivated me still. So it was awesome to have him there and throwing those really good distances and having someone to chase. And you know, it's amazing that something like that, how well it can be for you, how good it can be for you. It's just having someone there in front of you to keep chasing, and then knowing that if you ever do get in front of him, that, you know, he's chasing you now, which is a great feeling. But also, you've got to keep your foot on the gas.
And it's also interesting that New Zealand is a small island. It's probably 300,000. What's the total population there?
So 4 million.
Oh, 4 million.
But there's only, you know, 300,000 in the south.
Right, more sheep than humans, though.
40 million sheep.
Yeah. So it's but it is. I went down a couple of years ago for the Paralympic World Championships, and
in Christchurch,
and how remote it is. How it's 24 hours to get there from pretty much, you know, any of the northern hemisphere
and
countries.
We'll point out, just flying, so that doesn't include layovers or anything like that.
Exactly.
So it can be 30 and a bit hours to get there.
So again, that one question is, how has a little country like that now developed 3 of the greatest shot putters in the world? With Valerie on the men's side, on the women's side, and you and Jaco, because there hasn't been a great athletics tradition over the last few years, and so and then this little shot put group has come through, and not together, not interrelated in any way, but just pushing each other on. How's that been?
I don't know. Like New Zealand's it's always been a very sporty country, whatever it is. You know, obviously rugby's our big sport. Cricket, you know, other bits and pieces. So, and we get huge support from Athletics New Zealand in terms of funding wise. So, we're very lucky compared to the Americans and other bits and pieces that the money isn't such a worry. So, and you don't have to be as good to get the money, which is also a good thing, but also a bad thing. So we've always been well supported, which is good. But I think, like, Valerie really started it, and she is part of the reason why I'm a good thrower at the moment. Because I went over to her in Switzerland with her and JP in 2013, year after London, and I was a 1980 guy then. Really wanted to qualify for World Champs. I trained with her for about 6 weeks, her and JP, missed out by World Champs by 1 centimetre.
I remember that,
And I learned a lot in that 6 weeks with her about, you know, doing this and what comps were good and how you should travel and where you should stay and why and this. And then I came out, you know, 3 months later and through 2060, qualified for World Endurance, and then we roll on and had a pretty good summer. But then I went back there as well again the next year and spent 2.5 months with her. And sharing her knowledge with me was massive in terms of learning what was good things to do and how you can conduct yourself and other bits and pieces. So she even though we're not from the same island, we're about an hour and a half flight from each other. She was hugely supportive and really helped me out as a thrower. And apart from that, like Jaco's his own man. He does his own things, but he's an incredible athlete as well. So we're lucky that we've had three of us at the moment, and there's another young kid, Ryan Ballantyne, who's going to be good. He's coming to train with us in Christchurch, which should be good, and hopefully he can be the next one on the line. But I think we've been lucky in some respects, but also without the coaches that have supported us along the way as well. I'm very lucky to have a coach who, one of his favourite sayings is, "You can come if you want. I will be here between 3 and 6. If you come, you come. If you don't, we'll carry on without you." So, and he's a very smart man, and it's one of the major reasons why I am the thrower I am today. Because he didn't push it on me. He didn't train 6 days a week, 2 sessions a day. He was like, "Turn up if you want." And I guess the athletics coaches in New Zealand, because of the rugby background and stuff like that, and netball for women and other bits and pieces, if you push the athlete too much, they're more likely to scoot on you. So they're a little bit more relaxed. And again, I think we've just been a little bit lucky with 3 very good athletes in a 10-year period.
I think also you had as a young athlete coming through from the junior years, you also kept a good balance because you were still working. You were working as a builder, and you still are. So that helps in some ways. It
does indeed. And people, the American guys are like, what are you doing? Like, you make enough to live and train full time. And look, everyone knows that I'm not much of a athletics nerd. I know the guys who throw, and it's really about as far as it goes. I know Usain, obviously, because everyone knows Usain. But and so I just love it because I go home. I don't work that much. I still work. I work 7 till 1 every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 7 to 1 on those days, and it's the boys. All they want to talk about is Saturday night, cars, girls, and they're all school. They don't care about athletics. They don't care about how much weight you lift. So it's good for the head.
It's good for the balance.
And it's just good to keep things fresh and just change the subject every now and again, because we're all aware that athletics can be very kind of
insular.
It can be very individual and stuff like that. And if things aren't going well, it can be easy to get down on yourself. So it's great to have that as just something else.
Now, in terms of your coaching situation, you touched on it. And you had one coach from early age that worked with you for
So my father was my first coach, as most young kids, and so we worked together and like normal kind of father and son's relationship. We argued a lot, didn't listen to anything he said and stuff like that. And then I was lucky enough to find Ian Baird, who I was with from probably 16 till 2 years ago now, 2 years ago, so 22. And he was, very patient and just a very knowledgeable guy. And he didn't push things on you too much, which was great. And that's what I needed, because I was playing cricket 2 games a week along with the trainings. Playing rugby as well, so I fitted in throwing whenever I could, and that might have been once or twice a week, or maybe sometimes lucky 3 times a week, but nothing else. So I was very lucky to have that, and then I moved to Christchurch and still work with him, but moved on, and Andrew McLennan took over my gym program until 2 years ago as well, and then we parted ways, and I moved on, and Dale Stevenson took over the technical side of it, and the general programming, and then Angus Ross took over the kind of the gym program writing stuff, and things have been. We changed that transition very well. Like nothing, throwing didn't go down, and we always kept in touch with the previous coaches to make sure that things weren't changing too much, and because they knew so much about why I was a thrower who got third at World Indoors and did well at Common Range. So I felt like there was a change needed, but we didn't want to throw them under the bandwagon.
And Dale came in, and Dale's a former Australian shot putter.
Yeah, don't hold that against
Yeah, no, well, that's a tough one for New Zealand and Australia. Not a lot of love lost there. But also, he brought with him some fresh ideas and a fresh approach to it.
Yeah, so me and Dale's relationship is probably slightly different to most. I used to train with him every now and again in Melbourne and in Europe when he was over here, and I was as well. So we were probably more mates to start with now than most coach-athlete relationships. And now we're not at all. So that changes now. No, we still get on well. But he was just brought in some different ideas, different ways of thinking about stuff, and so did Angus as well. So it was a great change at the right time, and Dale, I guess, has taken on a lot of kind of either Don Babbitt's he trained a lot with Don, so he's taken all of Don's coaching methods and stuff like that, which has been great.
But Don's also mentioned to me that he's been really interesting as you've been training down there in Athens, Georgia, and he's been enjoying watching you guys train together, and says also that Dale's approach is very refreshing because he's been a teacher and has a very pedagogical approach to it. It's easy to say, but that kind of the understanding of how to teach, how to communicate is a very interesting skill, and to a certain extent we've lost a lot of that from coaching, because coaching used to be very much connected to physical education, and now it's kind of lost that connection, at least in most countries in the world. But Dale's brought some of that educational understanding into it.
You're right. My old coach Ian always used to say, there's no bad coaches, there's just more effective coaches than others. So, and a lot of coaches over the previous years have been in your face, telling you what to do, this is wrong, this is right. And what Dale has brought is there's no right way, whatever way feels right is right. And for me, it's working. It's clearly working, and I believe in the program, and I think that's the most important part is you don't need the best coach in the world, but you need a coach that you believe in and you believe the program. Because if you do, that will give you confidence.
And also, from what I understand, is that you don't get caught up in the details, and he doesn't get caught up in the details of technique, and he's very much interested in the flow and the skill element of the technique.
We don't talk about right foot position in the middle, left foot arms, right, all this kind of stuff. A lot of our, we don't need to say anything. Like I might just do this, or or that, or something like that, and it's just simple. Like it's over rotation, missed off the hand, maybe gone through it a little bit too much, and that's pretty much as much as the technical stuff is. It's more about the feeling of it, and that's what the feeling is. And look, it usually takes some time for the coach athlete to build up that what each thing means, but as soon as you do, it's pretty easy.
But also you deal in a more holistic approach to the technique, and it's about how it feels in general.
It is.
How would you structure a normal throwing session? You're not going to go through and worry about, I'm going to do this at the start and then this and after.
Usually, depending on what phase I'm in, the first 4 to 6 throws are just getting in there and throwing it and seeing how I'm feeling. And then we move on from there, and it's just I guess depending on what phase we are on, and changes the emphasis. So if I haven't got any gas, we're more focused about just getting into reasonable positions in terms of finishing stuff, and we don't worry about the finish because the finish is last
takes care of itself.
And it will take care of itself when you're fresh. So it's just about being free and not having the handbrake on and moving well and feeling like you're getting through those positions well.
Not getting caught up in the details.
Exactly.
And in terms of a strength program, because there's a lot made of a lot of throwers, and they're this strong and that strong. You don't see yourself necessarily as one of the strongest guys out there. What's your thinking and your approach to strength training, and what's been effective for you?
Yeah, I think both me and Dale's idea about this is very similar. And we get frustrated because everyone still talks about, the first question is where you're from, and the second question used to be, obviously I'm from New Zealand, the second question used to be, do you know Jaco? But now that's no longer. But now the second question usually is, what's your bench press?
Exactly.
I don't stand in a circle and bench press a shot. I throw 15 metres, 1550 as a standing throw, and I throw 2150 as a rotation. The rotation is what I'm more worried about a standing throw, a bench press, a squat, anything like that. So for me, I don't buy into any kind of big bench press, big squat, big standing throw stuff.
Yeah, that you need this number in order to throw this far.
I think there are certain numbers that you need to make it easier to throw certain distances. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
You can't bench 100 and throw 22 metres.
Right.
I don't think that's possible. There's some horsepower that you do need and is required to throw distances, but so many people, and I think it's changing slightly, but over the last 20 years have got caught up in get strong, throw far. And for me, if I did that, I'd be throwing 1952 metres.
It's kind of an easy way for some coaches to handle it as well, because they'll throw people in the weight rooms rather than spend the time working on the skill element or something.
As soon as they go into the weight room, they get strong, you see results straight away. And it's a short-term fix for a long-term problem. It doesn't. On the long term, it doesn't work. I don't think. For some throws, it does. Right. But I think it's changing.
Okay. And in terms of you going forwards now, and Rio obviously is a good goal, but you're still very young as a throws point of view. So you've got another couple of Olympic cycles ahead of you. How do you see yourself developing? What's the next phase as you go forwards? Is there anything, goals and things you're setting yourself?
Look, my goal is to break the world record. It's that simple, and obviously to win a few things along the way, but that record stood far too long. There's far too many ghosts around that record as well, for a few other reasons. So, I think it's going to go in the next 5 years. Whoever gets there first is, I think it will change a lot of things. A lot of people will start to believe that you can do it without certain help. So I think that's definitely one of the big goals, and not just to throw it, but to throw a long way past it. Because a lot of people, I think, say, I want to break the world record. It's like, if you set your goal here, you're probably going to end up here. So we work on the kind of things, we're going well past it. And it's a big thing. And if you can do that and then start to be consistent, below it and around it, it's going to take care of the majors and the other bits and pieces like that.
Because records are there and they're there for a reason. They're there to be broken, but they're also pretty tough, right? So indeed. You don't see very many world records going. We were lucky enough to see one yesterday in women's hurdles that stood around for a long time. But every now and again, it is cyclical in nature. You get throwers come through. I remember when Adam Nelson burst onto the scene and a relatively unknown, and had the potential to break the world record, and we were talking about it a lot, and see other people coming through as well. It's not an easy goal to go for, and you require a certain things around that to work with. I think one of the things that's good at the moment, there's a really good group of young throwers coming through that are all peppering, certainly 22 metres, and capable of going beyond that and performing well in championships as well. And so that gives you a platform from where it might be possible.
Look, you don't want to be left behind, that's for sure.
I mean, who are the young crop that you see around at the moment? Who are the people that you're impressed with for one reason or another? What's
obviously, Joe's not young now, he's 26, but he's an impressive throw. The guy who can come out and throw 22 over the last 2 years so often is very impressive. We can't go past Conrad. He's for a 19-year-old, I think he is. Throw 21. I was throwing 17, 18 metres at 21. So he's very impressive. The big question is obviously throwing at such a young age, how much topsiders he's got, and he knows more about that than anyone else does. And look, Ryan Krauser is obviously another one, same age as me. I actually threw against him in World Youths, where he blew away the field as well. And Darrell Hill as well, he's good. And look, there's a handful of Americans around and bits and pieces like that. So it's definitely a good crop of young throwers. Dane's another one. Still haven't managed to beat him in the majors, which is slightly frustrating. But I can beat him at every other meet throughout the year, but just not at the majors. But look, the new age of throwing is definitely coming. You know, Reece and Christian, Adam and Thomas are starting to finish now and other bits and pieces. So it's a changing of the guard. It's going to be quite interesting to see over the next 5 to 10 years.
Do you also see in that changing of the guard, do you also see a change in the physicality and the approach of those? Like someone like O'Dane, and you know, there's a new speed element coming in, and you know, even Joe is, while he's a strong guy, but he's not the biggest guy.
No.
So you know, it's interesting to. There's lots of different body types out there now that are competing.
And I think that's from like a bit of Reece and Adam in terms of their body types. They're not big guys. They're 6 foot, 6 foot guys. And I think that's the crop of guys who have see those guys 10 years ago and be like, they're not that big. We can do that, you know. And that's starting to come through. And it's more based on speed now than what it used to be in strength and other bits and pieces like that. So it is really not just the guys itself, but the way you train for it and other bits and pieces are training.
And they're not constrained so much by the 7 foot circle. You know, when you have a Christian Cantwell, was always struggling to apply his power and tremendous power that he had, but within the confines of a 7 foot circle. If he was able to throw from a discus circle, who knows what he'd be able to throw. But that's the great leveler, isn't it? And that's the great thing, is that the smaller guys can use their speed and power and throw without chains and use the full circle to advantage.
Exactly. You know, it's. Some guys are just too big, and it's just that simple. Ian, my old coach, always thought somewhere between 6 foot and 6'3" was the ideal size for a 7 foot circle. Because then you're not running out of room. You can go through the whole range that you want to go through without shortening things and other bits and pieces. And the more and more I think about that, the more and more I think he's right.
Right. So what do you expect in the next few weeks? You're going to go back to Athens? A couple more weeks training there, and then you're going to travel down to Rio from there. Obviously a few rounds of golf as well while we're there. Me and Dale both play golf quite a bit, so it's when we're on the road, it's quite good to kill some time. But apart from that, I've just come off I guess since Stockholm, so about a 3 or 4 week reload block of strength stuff. So I'm just starting to feel a little bit fresher, so I'm starting to get more and more horsepower and more speed and explosion, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm not used to it and other bits and pieces. So over the next kind of 2-3 weeks leading into Rio, hopefully I'll start to line that up a little bit better. My timing will get good, and other bits and pieces. And I've got a comp on the 8th in Athens, and that should be the last hit out, and I should be in pretty good nick by then. And then we'll go down to Rio on the 12th and compete on the 18th. And also, when you're staying in Athens, you got Adam Nelson and Reece Hoffer on your doorstep, and has it been fun hanging out with those guys and training from those?
Exactly, it's awesome. If anyone has the opportunity to train with any guys who have been around for 5-10 years, take it. I've been pretty lucky to not only train with Val, train with Adam and Reece over the last 2 or 3 years, and also Ryan Whiting and Jordan Clark. And it's so interesting to learn about the way they go about it. Possibly my opinion on where they might have gone wrong or where they're going right, or and just thinking about the way they go about things. And it's just awesome to have someone to throw with and throw far with as well.
Well, Tom, it's been great talking to you, and I really appreciate you giving the time, and just want to wish you all the best as we go forward to Rio.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks a lot.